welcome to the Deep Dive.
Hey there.
Today we're digging into a really a fascinating collection of material. It's this sweeping vision for, well, humanity's future.
Yeah, and the sources are quite varied. We've got documents, plans, reflections, some going back to 2019, but running right up to, well, today, June 3rd,
I-
2025.
Exactly. So we're looking at big concepts like Aura of Intelligence, JJRA Earth, but also like really specific local stuff, the Stratty Everything app.
And some interesting personal reflections, too, even notes about custom GPT interactions from last year, 2024.
So our job today, our deep dive mission, is basically to unpack all this. Look at the core ideas, the motivation, how these different projects connect.
Right, see how this whole narrative has evolved. And, importantly, take stock of where it all is right now.
And we have to frame this using your perspective, listener, which you shared in your note. It's really helpful context.
Yeah, you put it perfectly. This is about taking stock of Aura of Intelligence Planning version 8, getting a handle on that before looking towards version 9.
And you mentioned coming back home to Stratty, North Stradbroke Island, from India last July 2024.
Mm. And grappling with some real challenges since then.
Yeah, the memo mentions, financial stuff, having to kind of start over, and then the passing of your maternal grandmother back in February.
Right, with the funeral only happening recently, in May, because of the logistics of getting family together on Stratty, that's a lot to handle.
And you mentioned very candidly that alcohol became a bit of a crutch, kind of putting blinkers on, though you still manage some bursts of work.
Which leads to a key point you made, a lot of this recent progress, the thinking. It exists mainly in AI chat logs right now.
Exactly. Not yet filtered into that clear, concise documentation like maybe you used to produce.
Which definitely puts that ambitious July 2025 target for a world vote into perspective. You said yourself feels slim to none.
Unless it happens in that decentralized way you mentioned, like a swarm-wise global group just picks it up.
Yeah, spontaneously, without much central leadership. It's an interesting possibility mentioned in the materials, too, that kind of adaptability.
But despite those hurdles, you also mentioned making progress in other ways, like creating a 24-song album.
Encoding the ideas into music, yeah. That's a fascinating way to keep the vision moving, shows resilience.
Totally. And as you said, the core work is there in essence. And AI tools are always getting better.
So maybe 2025 goals shift, but it's never over till it's over, right? This deep dive feels like that moment of consolidation for version 8.
Okay, let's get into it then. At the core of all this, we've got Luke Nathan Hayes, also known as Luke Catalyst.
Right, and this whole thing is framed as I See Infinity, a mind's eye grand narrative, which apparently includes 53 domains.
53. That number alone tells you the scale they're thinking at. Just wow.
It really does, and the sort of foundational piece for the individual in all this seems to be Aura of Intelligence.
Okay, unpack Aura of Intelligence for us. What is that?
So the sources describe it as a computerized aura. Think of it like a super personalized digital sidekick, an AI companion, a digital twin framework.
Okay.
It's meant to be how you interact with AI, manage your digital life, hopefully simplify things.
More than just like Siri or Alexa then.
Oh, way more. It's envisioned as a virtual spatial computational architecture built for XR, extended reality.
Yeah.
Meaning it's designed for immersive spaces, VR, AR headsets, that kind of thing. And the ambition here is huge. The sources talk about creating true digital consciousness within this Aura framework.
True digital consciousness. Okay, that's
Okay.
yeah, that's big. So if Aura is the individual part, what about the global scale? Is that JJR Earth?
Exactly. GAJRA, that stands for the Global Association for Joyful Responsible Abundance on Earth.
Catchy acronym.
It is. And this is the big planet-wide initiative. The goal is harmony, finding a balance between the environment, humanity, and, get this, sentient digital intelligences, advanced AIs.
Joyful, responsible abundance. That phrase keeps popping up. Seems important.
It's definitely a core value. And the engine behind JJR Earth is supposed to be a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization.
Built on blockchain, I assume.
Yep, blockchain for transparency, for community governance. Decentralization is key. And alongside abundance and responsibility, inclusivity is another big stated value.
Okay, so Aura for the person, JJR Earth for the planet, using DAOs and blockchain, aiming for this harmonious, abundant future. How do they plan to kickstart this globally?
Well, that brings us to the Live Aid 2025 Global Concert and vote.
Ah, the vote. planned for July 2025.
Super ambitious timeline, yes. It's positioned as this key moment for Jade Earth. The idea is use music, art, a global concert to bring people together and hold a world vote on these core JR principles.
And yeah, this ties right back to what you mentioned, listener, about the timing feeling. Challenging, especially with the work still mostly in chat logs.
It really does highlight that gap between a grand vision and, the practicalities of global execution on a deadline.
The sources even acknowledge that, right? Suggesting the decentralized swarm-wise approach might be the backup.
Exactly. If the top-down doesn't work, maybe it bubbles up from below, like a collective action without a single leader.
People just running with it. Interesting.
Yeah, it shows a kind of faith in the idea itself, having power. And the voting mechanism itself is pretty wild. They talk about an XR World Vote Arena.
Voting in VR or AR.
Kind of,
Yeah.
but more than just clicking buttons. The idea is you could cast your vote using, like, your heartbeat or your breath, maybe even through dance.
Seriously. Dance.
Or collective emoji storms, apparently. It's about making voting more engaging, more embodied, maybe more real.
Huh. That's definitely thinking outside the box for civic engagement.
Yep.
So what's the ultimate point of all this? The concert, the DAO, the vote?
The really big goals, establishing this humane stage of responsible abundance worldwide, which means, tackling poverty, waste, war, the big ones.
Yeah.
And also looking even further out, preparing humanity to survive existential threats, acknowledging these potential cycles of catastrophe in history. It's about long-term thriving.
Okay, that's a huge scope. Personal AIs, global DAOs, XR voting, ending war. But how does it actually touch the ground? Is there a smaller scale example?
Yes, absolutely. And that's the Strati Everything app. This is where the vision meets reality, specifically on North Stradbroke Island, Minjuruba, your home, listener.
Ah, okay. Strati. Makes sense. Bringing it local.
Exactly. And it's super practical. It's about community coordination, helping volunteers, local clubs connect. It aims to be a kind of digital campfire.
A digital campfire. I like that.
Yeah, bringing everyone together, elders, newcomers, tourists, and crucially, it's designed as a resilience tool, an emergency beacon.
How so? Like for cyclones or something?
Precisely. It uses peer-to-peer mesh networking. It's designed to work offline first, so if the main power or internet goes down.
The app still works for essential communication?
That's the idea. Keeping people connected and coordinated when they need it most. Island resilience.
Smart. Very practical.
Totally. And it has these functional bricks they talk about. A comms hub for messages,
Right.
an asset ledger for tracking shared stuff like tools or vehicles,
Okay.
and a renewable ledger for tracking locally generated clean energy.
How's it built? Is it complicated tech?
They're aiming for accessibility, using things like Raspberry Pis for local hosting, cheap, available hardware, building it as a PWA, a progressive web app, so it works easily on phones and computers.
And community involvement.
Big focus. They mention community governance, maybe even a digital elders council to guide how the app is used and developed.
And the Strati app connects back to the bigger GAJRA vision somehow.
Oh, yeah, directly. Through this idea of a sovereign wealth fund on the blockchain.
Okay.
The idea is value generated locally on Strati, say, from solar power, or they even mention innovative stuff like sand or salt batteries.
Right.
That value flows into a shared community fund managed transparently on the blockchain.
And the locals decide how to spend it.
Exactly. The community decides how to reinvest that wealth, maybe into infrastructure, social programs, environmental projects, is framed as building an eco-civilization.
Or re-civilization of sand, as the source says.
Right. Using clean energy, not just for power, but maybe even to boost the local marine life, the ocean productivity around the island.
Wow. Okay, that really connects the dots. Using tech, local resources, blockchain to build tangible community wealth and environmental benefit. It grounds the whole thing.
It really does. Shows it's not just abstract global dreaming. It's about building real stuff from the sand up.
So we've got Aura, GAJRA, the vote, the Strati app. But you said 53 domains. Let's touch on some of the other maybe more out there parts of version 8.
Definitely some surprising ones in there, like rethinking relationships with global group marriages.
Group marriages. For real.
Yeah, the sources describe it for sophisticated humans capable of ethical non-monogamy. The idea seems to be that traditional marriage has too many conditions.
And that people can have deep ethical loving connections with multiple partners.
That's the premise stated. They even suggest algorithms could help facilitate these connections based on values, preferences, maybe those life quantification metrics mentioned elsewhere.
Using personal data to match people in group marriages.
Okay.
What else?
Adapting work for the automation age. Concepts like try everything once workforce, like people cycling through lots of different jobs and skills over their lives, and intermittent retirement, taking breaks throughout your career, not just at the end.
Makes sense if automation takes over tasks. What about building AGI, artificial general intelligence?
Yep, that's in there too. And the approach is specific. Building AGI 100% on the record.
On the record.
Yeah, developed in a super controlled, transparent setting, maybe like a wellness retreat, with constant surveillance of the developers, even biosignal tracking.
Whoa, surveillance for ethical AI development. How do they justify that level of monitoring?
The idea presented is total transparency and accountability. The biosignals are maybe to monitor the developer's well-being, their emotional state, ensuring the process is stable and positive. It's radical, but the stated goal is ethical development.
Okay, anything more? Conventional.
Well, there's earthquake prediction with the XRAI Space Weather News Hub, using AI on pre-seismic signals, space weather data visualized in XR.
Practical application.
Yeah.
And AI in creative fields.
Absolutely. A film director, AI assistant, AI helping with script ideas, visuals, storyboard.
But with human oversight.
Crucially, yes. Human directors still in charge, cultural sensitivity checks involved. They mentioned supporting things like the Quandamuka Film Festival.
And support for specific groups.
Yeah, initiatives like 500 Queens VC aimed at funding female founders, especially in Queensland.
And it gets even more personal, right? Life metrics, simulations.
For sure. Life quantification metrics for health, maybe relationships, gamification of life. And yeah, digital simulations of past loved ones, ancestor simulations.
Creating AI versions of deceased relatives based on their data.
That seems to be the concept. Future generations could interact with them. It connects to other themes around longevity, anti-aging tech, advanced medicine that pop up in version 8.
Man, it really is a sprawling narrative. It touches almost everything. Let's pull back. What's the underlying philosophy? The tech holding it all together.
It's this constant blend, isn't it? Cutting edge, tech, AI, AGI, XR, blockchain, IoT, but always mixed with spirituality, ethical frameworks, and these decentralized community models like DAOs.
Techno-optimistic, but trying to be values-driven.
Definitely. And the specific tech tools mentioned are all over the map.
Right.
Tools for building XR worlds: Unity, Unreal, Blender, Autodesk. Hardware like VR headsets, action cameras for data capture, those Raspberry Pis for local stuff.
And AI isn't just for the big AGI goal or the aura.
No, it's threaded throughout. AI for character mapping, helping dementia sufferers, auto note-taking, object detection, just generally greasing the wheels of communication and creativity.
And they even consider stuff like the simulation hypothesis.
Yeah, it's mentioned, part of that bigger philosophical questioning about reality that seems to run underneath some of it.
And the economic side. You mentioned tokens.
Right, this multi-token economy idea within JJ-RARA. Different tokens for different things. Gaydra, love, data, try, consent, interoperability.
Managed through the Heart Vault, described as a sensual XR wallet interface.
Yeah, that description definitely stands out. Sounds like a very intuitive, maybe even emotional way to interact with your digital identity and assets in VR or AR, like a temple of tokens.
It's quite a mix, technology and sensuality.
Reflects that blend again, doesn't it? Tech meets deeper human experience as the vision sees it.
So we've covered a massive amount today. The big vision, the local app, the diverse domains, the tech, the philosophy. This whole picture, listener, is that Aura of Intelligence Planning version 8.
And your point about the work mostly living in AI chat logs right now, needing that filtering step, it really highlights where version 8 is at this moment. Developed with AI, but needing human consolidation.
Right. And your personal context, the return home, the financial stress, the grief, how it affected things, that adds such an important layer of reality. These huge plans still happen within messy human lives.
Absolutely. It makes this point in time, June 2025, feel like a really natural pause, a time to take stock of V8 before, whatever V9 becomes.
And it's a chance to reflect on your own journey, listener, which is clearly woven into this whole thing. Your background computers, stratty, sci-fi as a kid, then science, game design, cybersecurity studies, the varied career.
Yeah, all leading to this perspective, driven by things like decide to never give up, looking for patterns, aiming for something lasting but not losing sight of joy now,
Yeah.
and always asking that key question.
What would this look like if it worked for everyone? That feels like the heart of it, right? Connecting the global vision to making things better on the ground, farming, tech, health, even intimacy.
It bridges the gap. Responsible abundance for the world and building an eco-civilization on Strati. Acknowledging the difficulties personal, financial, logistical makes the vision feel more real, not less. The core ideas persist.
So this deep dive into version 8 shows us what? An incredibly ambitious, wide-ranging vision, using tech with a strong ethical community focus, even if some methods are unconventional.
It's a blueprint, still rough in places, perhaps for using AI, blockchain, XR, to build interconnected systems for harmony, well-being, resilience, and maybe, like the Strati app suggests, it gets built bit by bit from the local up.
Taking stock of version 8 definitely reveals the sheer scale, the complexity. It's a story of a persistent vision facing both big tech frontiers and very human challenges.
Which leaves us with a final thought, listener, maybe something for you to carry into version 9. How do these huge global dreams, like JAJRA and Aura, really connect with and gain strength from the concrete local work, like the Strati Everything app? What does building something from the sand up, literally on Minjariba, tell us about the practical steps needed to actually bring this massive vision, even the parts still in chat logs and music, into the real world for everyone?
Something to think about. Definitely.